computer. All right, so yesterday you had 3 challenges: app user 1, guessing game, Caesar cipher. Let's start with app users 1. Now this is going to be a multi-challenge. This is like, I think there's 3 challenges in the app user challenge. So there's app user 1, app user 2, and app user 3 that just continues to build upon one another. So the first thing that we'll do, we'll go ahead and fork this over. So I've already forked over app users 1 to my personal GitHub. I'm in app users 1. I'm going to clone this down onto my local machine. So I'm going to click this green code and click the copied button. And I'm going to open up VS Code right here. So I'm already in desktop CP challenges, Platoon. I'm going to clear the terminal and just do git clone app users 1. And here we go. We have app user 1 right there. I'm going to cd into OOP app users 1 by typing OOP tab. So cd OOP tab. It like auto completes up until so it gets to this point and it's like, all right, which of these 2 you want to go into? I type in app, I tab again, and it auto completes. So I'm in OOP app users 1, and I'm going to code space -r space period, which is going to reload VS Code into a new VS Code window with app users 1 at the top level of my Explorer window. All right. Any questions up until that point? Pretty familiar with that process?
Tom, with the naming conventions, is it, I see this is the first one that we've had that's uppercase. Is that the usual naming convention for anything that goes into a class, is to do the camel case?
Not anything that when you say anything that goes into the class, like variables and methods?
Sorry, so yesterday Encore mentioned that, hey, when you define classes, you uppercase them. So they're uppercase, they're camel cased, they're not snake case. This is the first time where you guys have had a user that's uppercase as the file name. Is that a common naming convention for anything that uses classes?
I don't want to say it's always that case. It kind of depends on the organization you go to. Whatever code base you're working on, they'll have a specific naming convention for the files you are working in. Sometimes they'll be uppercase with camel case. Sometimes they'll be snake case. It kind of depends on the language, the specific file type, and what that file does. But you'll see uppercase files in both JavaScript and Python occasionally. Again, it just kind of depends. Yeah. All right. So let's take a look at app users. So you have the next big thing on the interwebs, but a thing isn't anything without users. So you're building an application, maybe the new, I don't want to say the new Facebook, but yeah, you're building like a new application, and your application needs users. So we're going to have to create a user class. So this isn't anything without users. In your application, users can sign up with all kinds of valuable information like name, email address, driver's license number, you name it. So we're going to just write a user class that can handle our application. So let's go ahead and just create a simple user class. All right. So in order to define or create a new class, we use the keyword class followed by camel case that starts with an uppercase. Your classes should follow camel case convention, but they should always be uppercase. They should always start with an uppercase letter. Questions about that? I think we kind of just covered that. All right. So what's one method that is always, not always, but typically always found in a class?
Define init.
Yep, the dunder init. So in order to define the dunder init, this dunder, The dunder stands for double under. So if you hear dunder init, this takes in at least one argument, which is the self keyword. And then it takes in any other arguments that we want. So what do we want our user to have? Username, we can say email. We can even say password if we want. Username, email, password. I think that's good for right now. So when we initialize a new user, such as you go to a website and you're going to go to create an account, you're going to type in your name, email, password, and then it signs you up for creates a new user, creates a new account. Questions about that logic? And you can have anything in here if you want. You can have whatever you want in here. This is just an example of what you may have.
So for the password, would you mind, Encore was talking about the underscore going before a password to kind of somewhat hide it. I know it's not the best for Python, but could you kind of include that in how this works, just so we can have that for future reference? Is that it? Just an underscore?
Yeah, I don't recall what, I don't think I was there when he was talking about the under for the password.
Oh, that's just a convention for naming variables. When you declare an underscore, it just tells other developers not to touch this variable because it's constant, but it doesn't actually do anything. The computer doesn't read it any differently.
Gotcha. Okay.
You'll also see that in methods as well. So you'll start with like a method with just a single underscore. And that's just an indication for, it depends on where you're at, but it could be an indication that that method is like a helper function and only utilized within the file, the file, or only utilized in one section of the application. So yeah, and a lot of it's just, as Guillermo said, it's just an indication to communicate to other developers that method or variable is specific for something. So I'm going to do self.name. So the self keyword means you're declaring an instance variable. So self.name equals name. I can call this whatever I want. It doesn't always have to equal one another, like name. That's just for easy readability but this can be like user, like username if I wanted to be that, like call that, but typically all the argument, the variables are kind of like the same. Self.email, instance variable, email, self.password equals password. Now we're going to actually talk about actually writing passwords once we get to Django and all that, because obviously if I just store this directly into the user object, everyone can see my password. All right. Let's go ahead. What other things do we need? Sign up with all kinds of valuable information. We name it. I'm just going to say print. I'm going to create a instance method called print user info that doesn't take in any arguments, just takes in the self keyword because this is an instance method, and it's just going to return an f string. Just as name, self.name. So I have access to all the instance variables anywhere within my class because they've got the self keyword in front of it, which makes them instance variables. Email, do self.email. All right. And that's good. All right. That's good enough information here for my user class. My user class doesn't really do anything specific. But yeah, let's go ahead and create a couple of users. I'm going to create Tom, tom@email.com, password 123. All right, let's create.
Hey, Tom, I got a quick question.
Yep.
So your print method that you have there,
Yep.
Is that the same as doing like the string dunder method?
That it's essentially the same, but I just wanted to create a specific method for it.
Okay.
Well, actually, I don't want to say it's the same because, and I'll show you what the differences are. And so I'll just create this method, and then I'll also create the dunder string method. Sean, 456. So I'm creating multiple instances. Just uh-oh, what happened?
Hey, Tom, I have a
Yep.
question. That was our assignment right there, right? Like that, what you just created? That was it?
Yep, that was it.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. So 987. So I created 4 instances of users. I've got Tom, Sean, Jason, yapping. And so I can actually go ahead and run. Let's go ahead and print Tom dot. I can actually specifically access my name by running tom.name. And I can access that by Python, capital users. So I got Tom I can access each instance variable by calling the actual object Tom and accessing the instance variables, or I can invoke each instance method by calling the instance dot and invoking the instance method. So I can do clear. So Tom, like so, and I can do that for each instance of a user. I can do it for the Sean instance, the Jason instance, and the yapping instance. And I can clear that. And I've got all the users like so. Questions about instance variables and the instance methods for this user object? So if I just wanted to print Tom, just the object like so, so I'm not invoking any instance method, I'm not accessing any instance variables, I'm just accessing the object. I get this main user object like so. So the dunder string method, def dunder str, just makes it this instead of this user object with this all these numbers and this hash right here. The dunder string method just makes this a little bit prettier. So I can literally just return, and if I just wanted to return, let's just say I just wanted to return the name. Like so. So now when I print it, I just get the name Tom instead of that really ugly looking user object. So that's what the dunder string method is for. It's just when you print it out to the user, instead of it looking kind of ugly looking like this, it actually just prints whatever I want to print inside of the dunder string method. Does that
Hey,
make
Tom,
sense?
so-
Yep.
So if we're printing a string, we always use the string instance then. Is that correct?
Say that one more time. If we're printing the string,
99% of the time, if we're going to print something to the user, we use the def string, like dunder string method.
if we're printing just the objects, so if I'm literally, because like right here, I'm literally just printing the object. I'm not printing any attributes, instance variables, or calling any instance methods. If I'm just printing the object and I want that object, if I want to know some information about that object,
Okay.
then I'll use the dunder string method and put whatever information I want into the F string.
Okay. So example, I am going to render the personal account information of a user. That's when you would use this.
Yes, unless you have a method that says like print personal account info. So you can do that specifically if you want
See,
to.
that's what's confusing, I think, us. Like, when do you use which, or does it matter?
It really doesn't matter.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yep.
I just have, I guess, one kind of follow-up for that. So would that string dunder method essentially apply every time anything tries to treat that as a string now? Does that make
Sorry.
sense?
No, sorry, say that again.
So is that, I was wondering if that dunder method is now like, anytime you try to like treat it as a string, that's what happens now for that object, for that class or whatever.
So this isn't actually converting a string. This is literally printing the object. So if I do like type, this is still an object. This is literally just for when you print the physical object or like the literal object to the terminal, it's formatted a little bit prettier. That's all it's for. Think of it like that. Now, if you want to like access specific information, we recommend utilizing a separate instance method, like a very specific instance method of what you want to accomplish. So like print user info and actually invoking that instance method. So this dunder string is literally just think of it as for making things look pretty to the user for the object when you're just printing the object.
Hi, Tom.
Hello.
I have a question about method.
About the method?
Yes. So in today's stand-up meeting, can I ask you how to use one method instead of another method? In your example, all of the methods don't have argument. So what if I have two arguments with different argument? Can I still call one method instead of another?
Yes, you can. So for example, print user info. So if let's go back to, well, yeah, let's actually, does anybody have any questions about this user function or this user challenge? Nope. All right. So that is the gist of this user challenge. I'm gonna